Hello and welcome to Zenatta Consulting's monthly webinar series. This is on Zoho PageSense. This is our full product tutorial. And if you are not familiar with PageSense, it is going to be an interesting product as we step through this. It does quite a lot. I would say it's the Swiss Army knife of kind of web analytics tools, Tyler. We're going to go through basically general settings for this product, as well as analytics, heat maps, form analytics, A/B tests, session recording, push notifications, pop-ups. Yes, that's right. It does all of that. So first of all, we'll go into some general settings here and let's kind of talk a little bit about what PageSense does. So what it is it is a product where you are going to basically put a little bit of code on your website, and that is going to track pretty much everything a visitor does on your website, whether they're in a form and they abandon a form, what elements get clicked on the most. It also has a ton of other features we're going to go in detail. So to set it up, before you do anything, you're going to have to create a project. And we're going to create one here called Zenatta, and it's zenatta.com website tracking. And once you do that, you basically, after you've had it running for a while, as we obviously have here, we wanted to show you actually our live one, which will give you so you can see some real data that's in here. After you've done that, you're going to have this dashboard that's built for you. But the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on the snippet code up there. And once you go ahead and get that, you're going to get this little bit of code. You can send it to your web developer via email. You can just copy it, and then you're basically going to go ahead and paste that into your website. Now, if you're using WordPress, Zoho has a very, very nice plugin for PageSense, and you can go ahead and install that plugin and just copy this code into there, and it makes sure that this code is out there on every single page. Additionally, you can integrate it with Google Tag Manager. And if you click on that, what that's going to do is actually take you over to the full integrations page, and you can see all of the various things that you can integrate it with. So these are completely built in. We link it to our Google Ads. We link it to Google Analytics. But if you're using Intercom, a lot of people do that. You can do that as well. You can also link it to Sales IQ and get additional data that way. And then once you've got this basically set up and that code is up and running on your website, then you're going to see from your dashboard the various analytics that you have. So you're able to actually dive into a whole bunch of other analytics. You can look at the sources. Where did they come from? Was it from Zenatta? Was it direct? Was it Google? Did someone come from one of our forums? Did someone come from YouTube? You also can see, where did it come? What's the medium it got to? Was it a referral? Was it organic? Was it social? What device did they come in on? Desktop, mobile, tablet? What OS were they using? Mac, Windows, Android? You also have a whole bunch of other things you can look at here. The one we're going to focus on is page. So what page did they come into your website on? So for us, we put a lot of effort into getting people, of course, to come to the main website, but also to our CRM Zen show. So you've got that there as well. And then, of course, you've got your resource guides, where we have all of our resource guides on a bundle. So when I look at these, it makes sense. I would think that's where people would enter our site. So you're just kind of looking at to see if there are any surprises at all. Now, in this analytics section, most of this is redundant. So you'll notice if I go down here to source and medium, well, it's really showing me things I already knew. So you kind of got these over in the overall channel. And as you go through, you can see them. But these are just, if you kind of want to click directly to it, you can do that as well. And if you go by country, you actually already had the country when you were looking under the channel one. But this is just kind of quick little things to go ahead and see exactly where people are coming in from. So additionally to the acquisition and where are you acquiring visitors to your website, once you have this code installed, you also can look at the overall behavior. So where are people coming in over time? How many page views for each one? How many unique page views for each one of your pages as they come in? Also, if you're setting up landing pages, it's going to basically, this is how people enter your site. Where did they land? What are the success of your landing pages? And again, you can be very particular about this. You can say, I only want to track these pages and I want to exclude everything else. Because you're trying to understand exactly what's coming in. These are called experiments that you set up, and we'll talk about those here in a little bit. And then where were they when they left your site? What was the page that they were on when they decided that they didn't want to be on your site anymore and they left? So you've got the exit pages, the landing pages, all pages. So quite a bit of detailed analytics that you get once you've got this set up, but that doesn't even include all of the other areas where you're basically going to go for specific little areas that you wish to target. And with that, Tyler, I think probably the most powerful feature for looking at how your website's doing and how it's performing is heat maps. And PageSense does an amazing job of really tracking what your visitors are on your site. And I'll turn it over to you to go over heat maps.
Perfect. So yeah, first we'll kind of walk through how to set one up, and then we'll go through a couple of the different ways that you can look at a heat map and the different data that it gives you. So first of all, here looking at that same PageSense dashboard, over on the left-hand side, if we open up the heat map section under Analyze, we can go ahead and create a new heat map. So in this case, we're kind of just setting up one as a baseline here. So we'll give it a name. We'll say which page we want it to be on. And then we're going to choose the number of visitors to track. Now, a question might be, why would you not track all visitors? One really important thing when you're building out these different experiments inside of PageSense is that they really are exactly that, an experiment. And so if you're going to compare maybe two versions of a homepage and see which one gets better interaction with certain key elements, you want to make sure that your measurement is the same. So you might want to set both of them to 10,000, let them run all the way up to 10,000 and then stop them together, rather than just running them on all visitors. Now, there are some cases, maybe you just want to set up a very general heat map just to track your homepage from all time. And there you can just go ahead and do all visitors. But there are some cases where you want to be very specific and say, we're running this more as a, finite experiment with a set goal. So we want to limit the number and kind of cap it out at a certain point so we can say that the experiment is done. Kind of moving on forward from there, kind of jumping back into the real application here that we have some actual data in. So here we're looking at the Zenatta PageSense account. I'll go ahead and pull up kind of a general heat map that we have here for our homepage. So now that I'm in the heat map section, I can just open up any of these specific experiments here on the right. Opening up the heat map, I do want to highlight every now and then this page will take a little while to load. So if you're new to using this, one thing I have found that helps is disabling like ad block and things that prevent on-page loading, or sometimes you'll just get a spinning wheel on this page and the heat map won't show up. But once we actually have a heat map page open, we'll see a couple key areas of this page. So over on the right-hand side, we get kind of some summary statistics. So, how many visitors, how many unique visitors have hit this page? How many visits have they had between all of them? How many of them are engaged, where engaged is defined as they clicked at least one thing. Someone might hit your homepage and then immediately just fall off of it, right? So we wouldn't consider them an engaged user. So a good way just to see kind of your general performance on that particular page. Moving over into the little left-hand window here is where we get some of the interesting reporting around interaction. So these heat maps, these little red areas, red and green, are basically looking at a visual way to see where everybody has clicked, where, as you would expect, the red coloring or the hotter colors are going to be places that people are clicking more. So looking at our site here, we would see, unsurprisingly, right, the call to action buttons like our services and book a meeting are getting the majority of the clicks. Up in the top right, the little expanded window is getting a lot of clicks as well to see the rest of the menu. And then we'll also see things kind of like in the middle there on that making Zoho work for you. On the far left, we're seeing, some measurable amount of clicks on that M. And, in this case,
always kind of interesting.
It is.
It's always kind of interesting because it's not a clickable item and there's no indication it is. We see that a lot.
But then what you start to think when you see stuff like that on a heat map is, well, like, should that be a link? Like if people are going to click it, should we do something with that click? Or should we not, because, it might have just been an accidental click or, something like that. So you get a look at these heat maps and, they're not going to give you any specific action item out of it, but you can kind of derive some. Right. So up in the top left, of course, your logo needs to be a link because people are always going to click that to get back to the top of the homepage. So there's some specific things that you might be able to learn as you're looking at these heat maps. Another little thing here is that you don't have to look at it for the entire duration of that homepage. So in this case, maybe I just want to look at the last 30 days or the last 7 days. So I can go ahead and just grab some quick filters to look at a particular time period where I want to pull this heat map. It will also give you the breakdown up here in the top middle of the page based on device. So here, if we look at this, we'll see a different click distribution. So we could notice here that on our desktop page, the book a meeting button is red, which is good. That's what we actually want there. But on the mobile page, we're seeing that the book a meeting button is getting a lot less clicks. So the type of insight you can pull there is, okay, maybe smaller phones, that's below the fold, and people aren't seeing that. So maybe we'd want to shorten up some of our content if someone's on a mobile device to make sure that that book a meeting link is, within that first page and not needing any scrolls. So you can kind of start to take a look at these and get some of those general insights about, potential ways to improve the site and make sure that people are clicking on the things that you want them to click on. So now there's some additional functionalities here that are kind of rolled into the heat map. I do want to highlight, these are not heat maps. They kind of just group them in under this master reporting, but they're different types of interaction maps that we can make here. So the first one is a scroll map. So here again, red being more engaged, and as we get to cooler and cooler colors, they're going to be less engaged. The scroll map basically just shows what percentage of users see the certain part of the page based on their scroll distance. So up here at the top, we can see 100% of visitors have seen the very top of our site. As you'd expect, that's going to be the first thing that loads. And there's no way to load into this page without going past this part. But as we go down, we'll see things start to kind of roll over and become less seen based on that scroll. It'll also highlight things like the average fold, meaning the average part where you'd have to scroll to start seeing things. So I might look at this and realize, some of these what we do buttons down here are actually, call to actions, and 74% of people, might not even make it this far down to be able to see this data. Then as you keep scrolling down, as you'd expect, you'll see less and less people get further down on your page. So you might be able to derive some insights here around making sure that anything that's actionable is within that first scroll, or if it isn't, that's not always the worst thing, but you just have to understand that there's going to be some percent of people that don't scroll down to see some of these services or offerings that you might have on your site. The last little element here within the heat map is the attention map. So you can think about this kind of like a scroll map, but weighted by the amount of time that someone was on a particular part of the site. I have noticed with the attention map, the visits percentage is a little bit wonky because we know that 100% of people saw this. But it could just be if people scroll really quickly past it, it might not register this as having received any attention. But I will say that number can be a little bit suspect. But the main thing that you're looking for, go ahead.
I also find it's also tells you, I think a lot of times people come in and then they navigate away. Mm-hmm. They're doing something else because you're showing an average time here of 6 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. 6.5 minutes. So most people, I don't imagine, are going to spend 6.5 minutes staring at the fold. So mm-hmm. a lot of this is, it's better on maybe on other pages, how much time they're on the home page, though it can be relatively inconsequential, I think.
Yeah, because you're going to have that bounce or, that kind of default page. But then as you'd expect, kind of as you go down, you're going to see less average time spent and a lower view percentage as people move down the page. So again, with this first little setting, some of these ones that we'll go through later have more of a specific goal in mind where you're looking for someone to do an exact thing and kind of defining a success or failure. But with these heat maps, it's more of a way to get a qualitative look over, how people are interacting with your page, what they're seeing, what they might not be seeing, so that you can derive some insights around maybe reorganizing things to attract some more attention to the particular places that you want to have it. But with that, there are some additional analytics here and heat mapping that you can do with forms. So I'll pass it back to you, Brett, to kind of walk through that process.
Thanks. So with forms, it's this is the ability, if you've got a form on your website and you would like to track it, you can go ahead and create a new form analytic page. So all you're going to do is click on create new form analytics. And what I've done here is we actually have, and there are some peculiarities with this product. So this is actually pulling in a Zoho form. So I've got a form that is actually called Book a 30-minute meeting. And you can actually see in the URL up here, it's Book a 30-minute meeting. Or we'll show that to you in a second anyway, it's Book a 30-minute meeting. And the form actually has a name, it's not test, but when you put the URL in, and you say fetch, it goes ahead and it fetches that form and all of the fields. And these fields actually have names, which we'll see in a second. And then you're going to give the URL that you're going to use when you are done with it. But as you can see, if we go into it, this is the actual form, and it's a free 1-hour consultation form is what it's called. And so it's not called test, and all of the fields in fact have names. So you can kind of guess by looking at them, what they are. The phone number came through email, and you kind of know the order. My guess is you're going to want to track every single field on that form anyway. So if it does come in a little wonky like this, you can kind of figure it out and go through that. And then once you do that, you're basically just going to hit save and launch. And once you've done that, it is going to give you really interesting data on what's happening when people are filling out your forms. So it's going to give you the total number of visitors, but then it's going to say visits. Okay. And this is the count of unique page visits. This is one user who's accessing the page 3 times, and that's counted as 3 visits. So this is the uniques that are going through. And then you're going to go ahead and you can go ahead and look at starters. And starters is defined as they got to at least one field. So somebody got in, filled out a field. Now this actually will go with conversions and abandons. They usually end up being about the same. The total of starters should equal the total of conversions and abandons, because this is people that got one field filled in at least. And then when you go to conversions, these are people that got all the way through. They completed the form, they successfully submitted it. And once they submitted it, you were good to go. And then you go to the abandons. And these are people that filled out the form, and then they are started to fill out the form, but then they just abandon it. They either navigated away from the page, or sat idle for more than 30 minutes, or they closed the browser window. They did not get through your form. And so really, really straightforward, very, very easy to do. It's a little bit tricky if you're doing embeds. So you actually want to actually work on a form that's actually live, that you can actually get to the form that's actually on a page. But if you have people, if you're doing shopping carts, you're trying to get people to register for a webinar, you want them to book a meeting with you, this gives you a fairly good idea of, are you asking too many questions? Is it too much detail that you're trying to get? What is it? Where are they bailing out? And over time, you can look at this and you see most people get to number 3, maybe get to the 4th thing they're supposed to fill out, and they're just like, forget it. So it's particularly powerful with surveys as well. This does not track surveys, but you'll see that with survey software, where someone's filling out a survey, there's a high abandonment rate when a survey gets to be more than X number of questions. Same kind of applies with forms too. So a great way to kind of track all of that. And with that, Tyler, let's talk about A/B testing.
Yeah, so A/B testing, we actually had a question on this one, so good timing there. A/B tests are basically a way within PageSense to dynamically present different versions of the same page to different users to check the success to a particular goal. So again, we'll get started by just making one, and then I can kind of walk through some of the use cases here. So from the homepage, of course, we'll go over to the left-hand side under Optimize, open up the A/B test section, and then we'll go ahead and make a new A/B test. We're going to give it a name, and then we're going to determine which page it should go on. So again, we'll just use our homepage here as our kind of standard example. Now, using that homepage, the first section is going to be the editor section. So up at the top, we can kind of track our progress through all the different steps that we have to go through to set this up. The first thing we're going to want to do in a PageSense is make our first variant. So we've got a little drop down here in the top left. So of course, we're going to have our original. I can't make any edits on the original, right? That's going to kind of be the actual thing that's just sitting on the website by default. But if I go ahead and enter into variation 1, I can actually start to change content on the website within PageSense and serve it up differently to the viewers. It's kind of the advantage of having it embedded onto your site itself. So maybe I want to run an experiment. Maybe I don't like the tagline, making Zoho work for you. Or maybe I just think that maybe there's a better one out there. So I can actually select that element here on the page. I can go ahead and edit the text of that element. And maybe I'm not a marketing guy, but I came up with a new little slogan, taking Zoho to the next level. And so I can actually just edit that content here within PageSense, and it will deploy it to the website for me and actually change the HTML on the site for selective viewers in order to run this experiment.
See, I would have gone with taking Zoho to 11.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a marketing guy. So now we have this basically in here. We've set up a new little tagline, and that's going to be our variation. Now you can also create many different variations inside of one A/B test. What I will highlight when you're doing these is, in order to keep your experiment clean, you probably only want to edit 1 or 2 things at a time within each variation. So an example would be, maybe on this homepage, I want to edit this tagline, and maybe I also want to edit the phrase on the book a meeting link. You can go ahead and do that, but there's kind of a benefit to keeping things like one element at a time that you're changing, so you can figure out what part of each of those elements works well. It's often a case where you might want to make kind of a grid and start to figure out, all the different things that you can change, what variations are going to try, and then set up a series of experiments to best optimize those. But so now that we've kind of created our 2 variants, we now have to tell PageSense how we're going to define a win, right? So how are we going to determine if A or if B is better? And so to do that, we're going to go ahead and make a new goal. And there's a whole bunch of different types of goals that you can track through this. Things like element clicks, clicks on a specific link, clicks that target a specific URL. If you are making sales directly through the site, you can track like revenue, right? If you're able to serve up 2 different versions of a product page, which one generates more revenue? In this case, we're going to go ahead and look at this based on element clicks. And the element that we're going to choose here is going to be one of the elements on that page where we're running the experiment. So it has our page here as our homepage at Zenatta. And so I went ahead and selected the book a meeting link here. And you see it's kind of added that element to track there. But let's say I don't really care if they click it in the top right or on the page in the middle. So I might want to just click both of these and say, we're going to define a win as a click to either of these buttons because they do essentially the same thing. And so either of these are going to be a win, and we can go ahead and save our goal to track those. But so yeah, now that we have our goals set up, we've told PageSense how we're going to define a win in this experiment. Now we're going to tell it who we should use for this experiment. So you can do things like, say, use every single person who hits the page, or maybe you just want to run this experiment on 10 or 20% of users and kind of keep things normal for the rest of them. Another little benefit to doing this, kind of to circle back to a question we had earlier, is you're actually able to select some specific things about the audience that you want to serve this up to. So you don't have to just track it for all visitors. Like maybe in our case, we know that the vast majority of our customers are always going to be based in the US because we're a US partner. So maybe I just want to track people that are on a desktop, right? Because again, iOS or mobile is going to load a little differently. It might make the experiment less valid if we count those 2 different sources, because maybe one would be better for mobile and one would be better for the desktop. So maybe I just want to control this and just look at desktop users that are within the United States. And so I can go ahead and make a new target audience for that and go ahead and save. The last little part here, and I won't dig in too deeply into this, is the configuration of this test. If you wanted to say that more traffic or less traffic should go to a particular test, you can go ahead and set that up here. You can also choose your particular experimental method. I would keep it with the frequentist. The Bayesian is still new. And the quick one here at the bottom with quick trends, optimal, and high accuracy, that's just your statistical significance. So basically, if things are, they have to be less than 5% likely to have happened randomly to count, basically is what you're saying there. But again, these are things you can kind of tinker with over time, and using the defaults here, if you just want to get started, is going to be plenty good enough. Last but not least, We can go ahead to our summary page. We could just get a little top down of all these things that we've set up for our experiment. And then in the top right, we're ready to go ahead and launch that. And once you do, we've had one running here just on a very small amount of visitors so far. You can start to see, which version is working better. So in this case, we had consolidated some of our top menu bars to see if we get some better click-through to those new buttons. But it actually did not work. So consolidating them in this case showed a lower click-through rate, which is fine. We still are happy we ran the experiment. But you can start to see kind of what's working better over time based on some of these basic reports that you can pull out of your testing.
Yeah. And before we move on, we had another question, which is, hey, how do you change the color of an element when doing A/B testing? And one thing we didn't really talk about in here is Tyler, you use the method of direct editing on page, but another way of A/B testing is actually to give it 2 different web pages. So you can say when a person comes into the homepage, Zenatta.com, we're going to serve them that. And we're going to serve them up Zenatta.com/B, let's say. And we've created a whole separate homepage there. Now that would be a lot just to change the color of an element, but that would be how you would do it. You basically can serve up 2 completely different pages, or just clone your existing homepage and just make some slight color changes.
You may be able to do some basic color changes in the page editor too when you're setting up the variants. So it'd be worth playing around with that tool as well. Generally for us, we're changing things like language or content, but I believe you can change color there in addition to those. All right, with that, we'll kind of jump into our next section here, which is on session recording. This is kind of an interesting one. We're able to track for a particular user what their path was through your website. So I'll hand it back to you, Brett.
Yeah, so if there's nothing good on television that particular evening, you can log into PageSense and look at session recordings. So session recordings is probably the simplest thing to set up. You are going to say, I want to create a new session, and you're going to give it the domain you want to track. Again, you're going to tell it the number of recordings, how many in this experiment do you want to look at? And oftentimes this goes hand in hand with A/B testing, because you're going to want to say, wow, what is the behavior? And what you're able to do once you set this up. Oh, by the way, then the audience, again, key element here is setting up that audience. Who do you want to track? Who do you want to record? You only want to record. Great thing with this is I'm running Google Ads. I've got this specific page for Google Ads. I want to track that page. I want to track only visitors coming in from Google Ads. I want to see if that's what's getting the traffic, what people are doing. And this is going to show you what they're doing in real time. So you choose your audience. And then you've got a whole privacy feature here. So this is kind of interesting. If you're doing a recording and maybe you have a website where actually visitors can go and look at their account and see that, they're change their credit card information, do all of those kind of things. You probably don't want to make a recording of that, because maybe someone internally could look at that, get the credit card details, get all of those kind of things. So you actually can eliminate elements, you can eliminate inputs, you can hide specific URL query parameters. So if it's this URL, we're never going to record that. You can do all of those kind of things. And again, I mean, the real reason you want to go ahead and do this is set the privacy settings is because there are a lot of things that might be on your website that you really don't want to make a screen recording of that. So once you've got that done, you've set it up, you've given it the URL, you've chosen your audience, you go ahead and you launch it, and it's going to start recording all of your visitors when they come to your website, or at least the ones that you've segmented out. And it gives them these crazy names. They're kind of funny. So it basically comes up with all these various names, and it's going to tell you how long they were on. Did they hit any of the goals you had for them? How many pages did they go to? What device were they on? All of those kind of things. And so I kind of went through and chose one at random to give you an idea of what this looks like. But if you click into any of these, in this case, we've got the adorable water buffalo. It's going to give you a recording of what happened, how long they were on, what the resolution of their browser was, what browser they were using, how they came in. And then running down this side, you'll see basically all of the various parts and what they were doing. So you actually can scroll down this and just jump to any part in the recording. And you also have this nice little scroll bar across the bottom, and it gives you numbers as to when they did a significant change left to page different. So you can kind of jump through and jump ahead. And having watched a few of these, and I hadn't done it in a while, it's really interesting the level of distraction it appears that people have. They will come into a page and then I think an email came up. And so they go over there and they're just, and you can kind of see this was a 10 minutes and the person basically got distracted here across the bottom for about, 2-3 minutes. And then they came back in. So really fascinating. But once you have this, you just can kind of go through and you can see, well, then this person went ahead and they clicked on resources and you can see their little mouse is hovered over support plans there. And so then they went ahead and they, clicked on support plans and that took them to our support page. And then a little while later, they went over and they wanted to look at our web services. And that's just kind of it. It's a real-time recording. You are watching their mouse move around the page. You're seeing where they click, what they do. Things like this, you want to be really, really particular on the pages. I mean, it's not really valuable is what happens when people come into our homepage. Maybe it is, you want to just do a limited test, take a look at it. You get a lot of that, I think, from heat mapping, Tyler, as well, what they're doing, where they're clicking, where they're going. But this is, I think if you're setting up a particular page where you're anticipating a certain behavior on that page, you'd like to see if people are actually following what you're trying to get them to do. Screen recordings can be very valuable.
Yeah, I will say one extra little thing that screen recordings can be really useful for is if you do have this integrated with Intercom or Sales IQ, where you're actually using this to chat with users live on the website. Those integrations actually allow you to look at the screen recording for that chatter. So if I were to, maybe I go to a website, I try to find something and I chat in saying I can't find it, the customer service member can actually reference the screen recording and see where that person's already looked to maybe able to understand their need better or help them out faster. So this can be an interesting tool, especially when integrated into some, on-page customer service efforts.
All right, and with that, Tyler, let's talk a little bit about polls.
Yeah, so polls, this is kind of a new one inside of Zoho Analytics. They're basically just a quick little way to have a pop-up appear that asks a particular question that you can store and report on within PageSense. I do want to highlight, these are not quite like forms. So I wouldn't use one of these for your contact form, expecting to grab the data and write it to your CRM. It's really just a way to increase the engagement of users on your page. So starting here from within PageSense, down on the bottom left side under the Engage tab, we can open up polls and we'll go ahead and create a new one. We'll give it a name. This one doesn't need a URL when you're first creating it. You'll actually set that up in a couple steps here. Once we've created it, of course, the first thing we're going to have to do is add the various questions that we're going to want to have here. You can have many. I would recommend if you're doing a poll like this, you probably don't want more than one, right? You're just trying to do a little pop-up, ask them a question, get them a little bit more engaged with your website. So here, maybe if I want to do a really quick poll, I might change this to what's your favorite Zoho app? And they can just go ahead and give me one or, a couple of them in an open field response. And once I've done that, I can go ahead and set up some basic visual edits here. So I could say that I want this on the bottom left or bottom right. I can set up a background color with a hex code. So if you had a particular brand color that you wanted to use there, you absolutely can. One little thing I do want to highlight is you'll see it'll say powered by Zoho PageSense. You're able to turn that off in the visual theming here. So just as you're going through this, just remember to check that box unless you particularly want to, give PageSense a shout out as people see that. Once you've set up some of those basic visuals, now we can kind of choose what type of device we want to run this experiment on. In this case, maybe we just want to run this on desktop. From there, we can go ahead and choose our audience. One nice thing about PageSense that I wanted to highlight here is that once you've created a custom segment like desktop in USA, you can use that same audience filter in other places. So if you do a lot of these reports and you're often only going to want to run them to desktop users in the USA, you just create that one time and then you're able to grab them anywhere else where you want to use that audience. Here, we'll go ahead and choose which pages we want this on. So again, rather than setting this up at the very beginning, because we might want to have this on multiple, right? We'll go ahead and set it up based on our target pages. Down on the page a little bit here, we can select our trigger. So in this case, we're triggering this on page entry. You could say, I only want to do this if they scroll halfway down a page, then it'll do the little pop-up or on a particular time delay. One important setting down here at the bottom in terms of the response behavior is choosing how often the poll is going to be shown. I would imagine in most cases, you're probably just going to want to show it once. If you show it to someone and then they minimize it and go to another page and it shows up again, it might start getting a little bit annoying for them. So you can kind of choose if it's really important. Maybe you want to keep asking until they, complete it. Otherwise, you can say, show it once, show it, a couple times, and then stop prompting them to answer this poll. And then lastly, as you do with most of these pages, it'll go ahead and give you a summary where you can just review, which domain is this going to be on, what type of visitor are we going to use, which device, what's our trigger, and then how are we going to track that response and decide what to do once they've responded to the poll. And once you've kind of reviewed all that and confirmed everything is set up how you like it, you can go ahead and launch it up in the top right, and it'll deploy itself out to your website. So kind of a quick one here with polls. They're really nothing too crazy. It's just a new way to, try to encourage some engagement on your site and let people, provide you some basic information as needed.
All right, with that, we'll talk a little bit about push notifications. So we all know what these are. You go to CNN, you go to most websites these days, and you get that really interesting thing that says, this website would like to send you notifications. And will you allow it? And if you do, then you're basically going to get a little push notification that's going to pop up on the side of your screen, not even necessarily in the browser. It's going to kind of hover somewhere and say, there's a new article came out today, breaking news, those kind of things. Well, Zoho PageSense allows you to set that up as well. So you go to push notifications, you're just going to go ahead and do a new push notification. And you've got a choice. Do you want to make this one time? Do you want to make it recurring? They do have a super nice feature here, which is that it will automatically hide after 5 seconds. And if it's disabled, it's just going to stay there until you click on the dismiss. It's very nice because if you get these push notifications, you notice some of them actually just stay there forever until you go click the X and get rid of them. So kind of a nice feature that you have that ability to do that. And you also can say, hey, I want to schedule this. I only want to run this push notification at this specific time. So maybe we wanted to do it today at 9:50 a.m. Pacific time. I wanted to send out a push notification saying the webinar is about to start. So everybody who said they were allowing Zenatta to send push notifications, I could create this. That's the specific time it's going to go out, and there you go. And then you can also determine whether or not you want it to be a recurring thing. So you're going to send the same notification out every single day at a specific time, or every month, or however you want to set that up. And then you can also do it around triggered. You've got goals that you've set up. So when you've got goals that you set up inside of PageSense, and you can say, if they've completed this goal, then I want to send them that push notification as well. Again, we're just going to go with the straight up one time with the disappear after 5 seconds. And then what you're going to go through is you're then going to go ahead and create your overall notification. So this one is, subscribe to our newsletter, or subscribe to our newsletter, as we wrote here. Never miss Zoho news. Put in the notification URL where it's coming from. Go ahead and upload your logo. You can actually put a banner, which would go behind. You can choose that. And then you can also go ahead and create a button down below here. So subscribe now. And it's really nice because it gives you what it's going to look like. So Windows on Chrome, Chrome on 10, Chrome on a Mac, Firefox. So you kind of see which each one of these little notifications as they're going to come in, exactly how they're going to go ahead and look. And then again, you're going to set your audience. So you can have a custom audience. I only want to set this for new visitors on the website. I think the audience segmentation is probably the most powerful part of PageSense, that you can really dive in and just target specifically who you're after. I mean, clearly someone that's been to our site a lot is probably subscribing already. So I just want this to be brand new visitors. We've never ever seen them before. They've never come in. So those are the people that are going to get that little pop-up to subscribe to our newsletter. Then you can go ahead and set your goals. In this case, I'm going to do it specifically around how much time they've spent on the page. that's really all you're going to kind of know if they hit that or not, because really none of these goals are going to work very well as it relates to whether or not they've taken that action or not. And then you are done and you've got your overall configuration. It's ready to go. This is what it's going to look like. You can look at a preview in various browsers and operating systems and see how it's going to look. And you go ahead and launch this, and your notifications are ready to go. Straightforward, simple, kind of another variation on a theme, but awful nice feature of Zoho PageSense. Now, Tyler, let's talk about some pop-ups.
So I think here, this would be our last little section around some of these functionalities. The pop-ups, these are really, really simple, but can be very, very useful. And this is one that you've definitely seen before on other websites. So to get started, of course, we're going to start here at our homepage. Down at the very bottom left under pop-ups, you can go ahead and make a new pop-up. Here, the first thing we're going to do is choose the type of pop-up, right? So you could have like a full page, a bottom right corner, just a banner ad up across the top, as well as all these different categories. Now, I will say the one category here that was a little nebulous for us was like a newsletter sign up. I think if you want to do a pop-up on your page to sign up for a newsletter, go ahead and build that in Zoho Campaigns, right? Or go ahead and build that in a tool that's kind of pre-built for that. Just because for us, it was not super clear where these would go if I went ahead and signed up here. But in this case, maybe I just want to do a really simple pop-up. Maybe I'm running a promotion or I have a new part of my website and I want more people to see it. So over on the left, maybe I'll choose a banner, right? Something not super intrusive, but something that will pop in and be noticeable. And maybe for me, I just want to start with a template. So in that banners, I can choose a blank template and I'll go ahead and grab one here that just has some context and then a button. Again, here, I'm not looking for a sign up. I'm not looking to gather any information. Maybe I'm just trying to show them a new part of the site that they might not have seen. So now here from our template editor on the left-hand side, of course, you've got that kind of common editing tool where you can drag in some basic elements and add them to the HTML. In this case, I'm just going to make some quick edits. So if I click into the text here, I can go ahead and just type that out and say, check out our new and improved resource library. Now that's the standard text. And clicking over on the button here, I could change the language, as well as on the left, I can add the particular URL that I want to direct them to. So in this case, just a quick little link over to the resources guide in case they haven't seen that yet on our website. And so now that I've made that change, I've gone ahead and added my new content and I've changed that link so that it'll actually go over to the page that I want it to go to. And now I'm ready to go ahead and pick my audience like we always do. So in this case, with a pop-up like this, maybe I just want to run it on desktop. I think it might be too big or a little bit unwieldy on a phone interface. So I can go ahead and choose that. We can also now choose our configuration for this. So this is actually one where it becomes a little more important. So maybe I want to do this on my home page, but I don't want to do it on any page that has resources in the URL, just to make sure that they're not already on the resource guide. And then you show them the pop-up saying, check out the resource guide, right? We might want to avoid that case. So I can go ahead and just exclude that for my targets here. Then like, as we always do, choose your trigger. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on the page entry here, a quick little pop-up when they hit your home page. And from there, again, nice and simple. We've just got a little pop-up. It'll direct them over to that resources page with a little blurb of text. In this case, we'd be showing it to all of our desktop users. Once you're ready to go on that, you can go ahead and launch it as we've done with the rest of these, and then start to see the effects roll in from your new little pop-up.
All right, and we answered several questions during the presentation. I don't see any new ones. If anyone's got a question they'd like to ask us before we wrap this up, we'll give it a minute here. Go ahead and type it into the Q&A box. Is there much use for the personalization feature? Raynell, that's interesting. The personalization, it's really if you're wanting to just a very, very targeted segment. You're basically setting up just very specific parameters around times, dates, those kind of things. I personally haven't found much use for it. I don't know, Tyler, if you... What's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
similar boat. Not found a huge use case to use the personalization features.
Yeah, not much at all. Ali says my PageSense is loading slowly. Can you go over again how to remedy that?
So yeah,
Wait.
there's a couple things. Yeah, the biggest one is wait. Second biggest, make sure you don't have any ad blocks on. Anything that would be blocking something from loading in your browser can cause an issue. If you're using Brave or another browser like that that does it innately, you'll need to disable that for the PageSense heat map itself to allow it to load a little bit quicker. But sometimes, especially if it is a big data set, like if I've been running it for, a year on a certain page, I'll open it up, go, get a pot of coffee brewing, and come back in a little bit and it'll have loaded the whole data set.
Yeah. And Courtney asks, what's the best practice for pop-ups? Courtney, I think that's depends on the type of site you're running and what you're doing and the type of business you have. I think use them sparingly. I mean, just as a consumer myself and a person who's, kind of always on websites, I think we all live on websites, but I don't like to be, overwhelmed with pop-ups constantly. There's nothing worse than going to a site and you can't even get to where you're going because you're just being inundated with do this, do that, right? I think if you keep it to true calls to action that are truly important to you and limit them a bit, to me, that's a great best practice. I wish more people would follow it. I don't know, Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think making them specific makes them more useful. So like an example would be, a banner pop-up that's redirecting to something useful on the site that might be related to what they're looking at now. So like imagine if I sold, let's say I sold certain bike products, right? And I knew that, oh yeah, training class, that's a good example. So like if I was on the page for a 1 month yoga course, but you were running a promotion for a 2 month yoga course at a reduced price with some extra benefits, maybe you'd want to set up a specific pop-up on one page that says, hey, just so you know, we're actually running a promo over here that might be even better for you. So as long as people feel like the pop-up is being useful, I think it's seen less poorly. And I think a big one too is do them as banners whenever possible, the little kind of thin line across the top. People generally hate if a pop-up takes their whole page and grays everything out and stops them from doing what they're doing. So you want to try to avoid those unless it's very important that you show them something in particular.
Yeah. I think for commerce sites, one of the most popular pop-ups is give us your email address and get 10% off, 15% off, those kind of things. You'll see that all the time. It's simple. It's not too irritating because you're on a site to buy something. And if you do buy it, you're going to give them your email address anyway. But this is a way they're just absolutely going to capture it just in case you don't. They're willing to take that hit on profit so they can get your email address and market to you going forward. So that's one of those pop-ups that's only for new visitors or people who hopefully haven't cleared their cookies. And it's going to, there's some value in that. So you kind of have to think about what's going to work for you. All right. And then Andre asked product positioning between Zoho Marketing Automation and Zoho PageSense.
Great question.
I almost talked about this a little bit earlier, Tyler.
Yeah.
So there is a ton of overlap in Zoho products. And that's because some people do not have Zoho One. Some people just buy products a la carte. They don't have CRM Plus. And so since they buy them a la carte, it makes sense that certain products have overlapping features. With that said, Tyler, I think you've got maybe some other thoughts on just page marketing automation.
Yeah, I will say like the goal seek and goal tracking inside of Marketing Hub is a little bit more limited than what you can do in PageSense. The main advantage of, I should say, marketing automation, I still call it Marketing Hub, and like slap on the wrist. So the main difference might be that, you send out a particular email workflow through marketing automation. And if you're setting up goal seek for that workflow, then if someone clicks through to a page from the marketing automation workflow, it's going to append some parameters to know like this person that received this email clicked through to this particular page. Whereas PageSense is a little bit more just like holistic page management. It's not as targeted about a particular campaign or outreach effort. I will say, and I think we're allowed to say this, if not, we'll just edit out of the recording. So their long-term with marketing automation is to become more of an umbrella product where PageSense's tracking is just going to become part of Marketing Hub. You'll still be able to buy it independently, But in the same way that you have kind of like a, CRM plus that contains all these applications, marketing automation is going to kind of take the best parts of some of these other marketing tools and just tightly integrate them in one package. So before too long, I know that's in the cards, where you'll kind of have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and if you haven't followed Marketing Hub, now Marketing Automation, they've changed the name of it. It is undergoing a major overhaul and has been for quite a while. And that and campaigns, people often ask about, my goodness, why is there Zoho campaigns and marketing automation? They're identical products with kind of a few different features over on the marketing automation side. They're making some changes around there. We won't be surprised if that all becomes kind of one super product with different tiers. You can buy the basic version, the professional version, the enterprise version. But you're always, I think, going to have additional features inside of PageSense that, marketing automation has nothing to do with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have the two, but if you're only looking to do certain things like pop-ups and some other stuff, well, you can just stay with the marketing automation product, right? I mean, if you're wanting to do all your campaigning and marketing, if you want to do all this heat maps, targeted audience, all of that kind of stuff, you're going to need PageSense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, everybody, we want to thank you so much. If you have any other questions or comments, please head over to Zenatta.com and you can drop us a line there. And if you go to Zenatta.com/Zen, you can go to the CRM Zen Show. If you're not familiar, that's our podcast where every single week we cover everything that happens in the world of Zoho. And some weeks it is a lot with 50 different applications. We've got a lot to cover. So we'd love to hear from you, and head on over to Zenatta.com.
Yeah, and if you'd like, please go ahead and follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as over on YouTube, where we always post the recordings of these webinars, as well as, quick training videos, tip guides, and general Zoho help. So thanks again for your time.
All righty. We don't even have to do show title. It's great. Thanks, everybody. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks, everyone.